All right, let's bring in Mia Alberti, who's live for us there in Brussels. Mia, we have been here before several times, but tell us, how did they reach an agreement and what's changed?
Well, the two sides were responsible for making a lot of concessions, and that was something that both Donald Tusk, the European Council President, and Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, wanted to underline yesterday, saying that both sides did a lot of concessions. Now, we saw the EU making concessions, for example, on Northern Irish consent, allowing the Northern Ireland Assembly to vote on these rules every 4 years. But then we also saw Boris Johnson's team conceding on, for example, in allowing Northern Ireland to remain under some European rules regarding customs and tax, at the same time avoiding being in the single market and having a hard border between the two Irelands. So that was a big breakthrough in negotiations. But now the feeling in Brussels was sweet and sour, let's say this, last night, because of course they were celebrating achieving this agreement, but at the same time saying goodbye to one of its most important members since the creation of the bloc and since the United Kingdom joined. But now, as we just heard from Simon's piece, now everything is on hands in London, and I think there's a lot of expectation here in Europe that this time is the charm.
Let's see, exactly, lots riding on that Super Saturday. So what can we expect next from the EU?
Well, obviously, we have to wait and see what happens in London. But if we look at some of the scenarios, if the British Parliament approves this deal, then it comes back to the European Parliament next week, probably, where it is expected to pass without a problem. So if that happens, an exit by October 31st, a Brexit by October 31st, is still possible. Then if the British Parliament does not accept this deal, then it will be up to Boris Johnson either to accept an extension, which is what's in the law right now, but he can also say, you know what, it's a new deal or no deal, and he can move forward with that and then face the consequences of the law after that. If that happens, then the EU will either have to brace for a no deal, and it will only have 2 weeks to do that, and you know it's going to face one of the biggest changes ever. So it's a lot of bureaucracy and laws and provisions that have to be made in such a short time. But the EU has also left the door open for a possible extension. We heard that yesterday from Donald Tusk, the European Council President, saying that if an extension request comes from London, then he would put it to member states. So there's also that option.
Mia, thanks so much for that update. Mia Alberti there for us in Brussels.